Hi there, Frank Winston here for the Pacifica Historical Society, host of the weekly show Footprints of Pacifica, where we discover and explore the lure and the lore of lovely Pacifica, its character and its characters. This week's show focuses on the dramatic arts in Pacifica and the founding 50 years ago of the first traveling group for Pacifica. The Pacifica Players was the second. Was the first, and the Spindrift Players was the second. Sheila Hyman was involved in the creation of the first theater group, and Sidney Clark was the founder of the second, and they're here tonight to share some of the history. And Sheila, first of all, on a personal note, what brought you and your family to Pacifica?
I came with a friend who said that she was going to look for a house because she read that there were homes for sale, Pacifica, and I came with her. And I came home all excited and told my husband, gee, we could get a place for so much down. I think it was like $350 down or something. And I saw something that we could afford. And so we came down the following Sunday and bought a house.
Sidney, what brought you here?
We thought if we were going to have the fog, we might as well see the ocean.
And this was the place to do it from. Going back to the founding of the city in 1957, your group began, but you were involved with one of the first appointed roles as a commissioner of Parks, Beach, and Recreation.
I came on, the city's first commission, I believe, was in 57, 58. 58, I came on in 61.
Okay.
So, but in the beginning, when we founded the Players, the city was looking through the Park and Recreation Department for activities for young people. And for the citizens, most of us are all young, moving in here with young families or being pregnant or going to be pregnant. So they were looking for activities. And there was a number of us that were interested in the theater, and we went and said, could we get together? So Maggie Ramirez at the time, Maggie Mosley, said she was very interested in theater, and she says, I will bring it before the commission, and we'll see if we can start this.
Now, did you need the city's approval, or were you an independent group, or did you get city funding when it began?
This was part of the City Park and Recreation program. We were a program of the department of
But
the
you were
city.
but volunteers?
All volunteers.
And did they support you in any way at the beginning?
They gave us, through the community service tax that was in existence at the time, we were able to use school facilities for our meetings and then eventually to have our plays there because there were no buildings or anything else to have it.
And when was the first performance?
1959.
Do you remember what the
I sure do. I was in it. It was The Tender Trap.
Oh.
My husband had the second lead and I had a very bit part. And then the second performance was Born Yesterday because my husband had the lead in that. He was a good actor. I was not good. But anyway, and then the third performance we did following that was a melodrama, which we put on The Drunkard. And because we wanted the peanuts and the beer and stuff, we put it on. The first two were done at Lindemar School. And the third one, The Drunkard, was done at the Pedro Point Firehouse.
When I went to school in Los Angeles, The Drunkard was running then in its
Right.
like 50th year, and I think it reached almost 100 years of consecutive performances.
That's right.
So you got it at the height of its thing. Let's switch for a second to Sidney. When they started, you were not involved in their group.
Not at all.
But yours was the Spindrift Players. Why the name?
I thought it was pretty. I don't actually know who came up with the idea, but with the ocean and our environment here and the wind blowing the spindrift back from the waves, I think it came about that way.
Now, I know you were in many of the original productions. What was your role in the formation of the company or the troupe?
Well, I had taught drama in high school. They knew I had directed many plays. And so they listened to me, and I was in the first play, and I directed the second one.
Do you remember the names of those?
Oh, yes.
Please.
The first one was No Exit, and it was directed by Nat Marks. And it had Aubrey Lumley in it, which was a mayor here at one time. And then when I did, that was a one act. And we rehearsed that in our living room. And then I directed a 3-act play, which was complicated. So we taped off the dimensions of the stage in our basement and rehearsed there.
So you had no theater when you started
No,
your group?
none at all.
They had a theater.
And we called
you
it
didn't.
the Spindrift Playhouse. I don't know why.
Oh, because
had no playhouse.
the Pacifica Playhouse was famous, so it's a nice name. It worked for them.
Okay. It worked for us. We finally got invited in.
Now, where were you performing? What you mentioned earlier, that it was not only a playhouse or a theater, but it provided programs for teens. What all did it have there?
You know, in the beginning, it was at the school, excuse me, and at Linamar School. And then in 1961, the Baptist Church on Crespi was going to have to be torn down or moved or something because Cabrillo School was going to be built. This is an era where all the schools were being built because of the child population boom in town. So they had schools being built constantly. They put the church up for bid. And at that time, Carl Baldwin, who was our city manager, was the only one who bid on it. He bid $50 on the building.
For the site or the structure?
For the structure.
Okay.
And we got the whole building, which was the Baptist church, for $50.
So you continued to use the Baptist church?
And then they moved the Baptist church. You want to show a picture if you want it?
Yes.
They moved the church.
This is a picture
and
of the
it
church.
cost $6,500 to move it. And that picture we nicknamed it the Holy Roller, because moving the church up to the Ottstad Park, where it was going to eventually be. And I think you have the other picture that's going to show that's on the site, and then before it was moved up to it. And that was in 1961. The building was completed in September of '62. And you have to thank a lot of the organizations in town. Mizpah organization did a lot. And when the building was completed, I know volunteers did the work. My husband helped with the electrical. The Park and Rec Commission, which I was on at the time, we each paid $25 for the steps. So,
Is a step named after you?
well, they did put a plaque on the
Plaque.
step,
Okay, good.
but I think those steps are now buried underneath the building because it's been totally remodeled. But at that time, the teens used it. That became the teen center. The seniors used it, and the players. So we shared the building. It was it was really a community center building.
And where were you people at the time in the '61? I'd love to get the laughter, but
All right.
there you go.
We put our plays, all 3 of them, on at the library meeting room on Hilton.
Where it still is today.
Where it still is today.
Okay.
And when we were doing No Exit, one of my friends, Don Carlson, said, "How's the play coming?" I said, "The play's coming fine, but we have no stage. We have no platform. And we're going to be on the floor with the people, and they won't see anything." And he said,
No,
well,
no risers.
no, well, nothing.
No raking of the stage.
Nothing.
Okay.
He said, "Well, we'll see about that." So in that week, he and Bob and Julian Crow, who had nothing to do with anything, made us a stage. And for the second play, my husband made us a curtain and called it my birthday present. And for the next several years, my birthday present was a floodlight or some piece of stage.
So sentimental, of course, for the theater. But what brought you finally to Sheila's home, if you will?
I don't really know.
Okay.
At one of our next meetings, they said we had been invited to join with the players, and I said, "Not unless we can keep our name."
I think what happened was
We did.
you had a personality conflict with people, and I think that's why the 2 groups formed in the first place. You had some people that wanted to run it one way, and so they left us. And
I
then-
wouldn't know that, see, because
Right, and joined Sydney's group because we wouldn't let him either be a producer. I don't remember all
Okay.
the
Yeah,
personality conflicts which go on in every organization. And so I think what happened, all of us realized, the city couldn't support 2 theater groups. And we did have the facility, and they were residents of the Pacifica. And so it was just a natural thing to do, to talk to them and say, "Look, let's form a group and get together." and
Well,
become one.
One interesting thing as far as history is this community did support it. Some of the earlier groups that you teamed up with to share costumes and the like are gone, and you're still around 50 years.
That's
That
very
calls for
true.
a celebration next year.
Yes, which we're going to have in
That's-
October. But
that's good.
in 1961 also, the group became self-sufficient, and the city let us handle our own funds. Now we had to pay for certain usages, and I think they're still paying. But if we needed anything, we could go to the PB&R, but they sort of let us be our own bosses because we needed that.
Over the years, did you do productions that were commonly done by high schools and theater groups repeating them? Or did you do original works, or did you have, what all did you performance-wise, except from any workshops?
Well, you can see on the bulletins here some of the covers from many of the plays that we've had. And Blythe's Spirit is up there, and that was the first play I directed for the combined group. And I have directed 3 original plays, two done by Roberta Ewall, a member of this community, and another one done by Scott, what's his name?
He's popular, by the way.
Who wrote it specifically for us because he realized there were more women
Right.
than
Men
men,
involved.
and so they had 6 women and 1 boy.
We also had a playwriting contest that we gave a big prize of a $25 savings bond. I don't know if we ever put on that play.
I was
But I
worried you were going to
don't
say,
even-
I don't know if we ever gave out the bond.
I think we did, but I don't remember what the play was, and I know we never put it on. But we did have some originals. And I think the reason you'll see a lot of familiar names up here is because people will go to something they know. It's hard to do experimental work
In
when
a
you're
small
trying
town.
in a small town.
Well, you say
Yes,
we're still
Sydney.
here. One reason is that we've been upgrading the entire time.
Exactly.
This theater that we're in now has a raked auditorium, which is a boon. It has comfortable seating, and people used to really complain
Didn't you
about
get
the
the
seats.
seating from some other theater?
Yes, we did.
Current Theater.
Earthquake did us good.
Right.
That's right.
They're very comfortable seats.
And everyone, people contribute. There's a big, what do you call it? It's sitting.
Plaque.
But anyway, people, if you look on the
Recognition,
seats,
yeah.
there's a recognition plaque. And on the seats, everyone paid $100 for those seats to get them repaired and put into shape. And
So you did have continued with community support.
absolutely.
How about, we've talked about the drama, the musicals too?
I never, I did. Roberta's was a
Musical.
a
Yes,
music,
hers
but
was.
she-
Roberta?
Roberta
Ewald.
Ewald.
Oh, Roberta Ewald was, okay.
But she knew that I didn't sing, and she had a musical director
Oh,
to aid me.
but have you done musicals from
Oh,
time to time?
in this theater, certainly
Yes.
we did.
Great.
I think maybe Hello Dolly was
Hello
maybe the
Dolly
first
was one of the first
and
ones.
was
and that was
wonderful.
very well received. They did Cabaret.
And they did, I was delighted with The Sound of Music, which
Oh.
really isn't one of
That's a
my
wonderful
favorites,
show, yeah.
but it was done so well.
They did it wonderful, and the kids in it were just great.
Now, when you run a production, it's like for 6 weeks on the weekends, give or take a week or so, and then you are down for 3 or 4 weeks in rehearsing, or both rehearsing while the next production's.
Maybe Sydney can answer that. I know when we first started, we used to put on productions as fundraisers for different organizations in town. So we'd put one on, and the proceeds would go to, let's say, the Rotary Club or the Lions Club, or whoever asked us to perform, and we'd perform
Did
as
the
a fundraiser.
president of the Rotary ask to have the lead in the show, or
No.
they had no control over that?
Our first, it was interesting because our very first, we did get a lot of help with San Francisco State Drama Department, and our first director came from San Francisco State. And I know we used to meet in homes, and I remember we had a reception in my home to introduce him to the staff, I mean to the cast, and it was, and the people, I shouldn't call them staff because none of us were paid. We were all volunteers.
When you refer to the staff, I know many of the audience do not appreciate, other than they know the curtain goes up and here come the actors in costume. What all is involved, and again, you're back to volunteers in doing all these kind of, you might describe a couple of the activities the volunteers can do.
Well, I would like to bring up the fact that in August, we're going to have an next year when we're celebrating our 50th, we're going to have an all-day come and enjoy the theater for the entire community to come, and they will be shown what goes on stage,
And those
how
are?
the lighting is done,
Lighting?
where the makeup takes place, where the dressing rooms are.
Lighting.
And that will be one of our celebration.
And when you have the lighting, what about the programs, the printing of the programs, the sets? Those are, again, done. I can remember some productions where stage managers are hammering away, and sometimes the performers. And certainly during the performance, I see in many, even at ACT, the actors are moving the chair on and off the stage as part of the show.
We are very blessed here in the city of Pacifica, I think, and I think there's another reason for its longevity. We have some incredibly talented people in this town, either with set design or with costume design, and not forgetting some of the acting. Some of the acting is incredible. And I'd say most of it is. In the beginning, we were sort of amateurish, I have to tell you, but we tried. Some were excellent, and some I think Born Yesterday was one of the best productions I've ever seen. I mean, I was not in it, so I can say that, but it was excellent.
Well, I think you all have to do is read the things about the people.
Reviews.
Yes, in the program, because they're coming from everywhere, and they have drama degrees, and they have this experience
Yes,
and
now
that
they do.
experience. They're coming from everywhere.
Yeah, so using this as a great reference and a referral tool that they've been in, and I think we've become known for that also.
Now, here at Channel 26, we're lucky because we have interns from various walks of life, including training at college and the like. Do you have interns sign up for a 6-month tour to do anything just to learn theater, or they're just volunteers without any regard to getting credit?
As far as I know, they're volunteers.
And how do you reach them? How do you solicit volunteers? Besides this show, Footprints of Pacifica should bring you a groundswell of activity. But aside from that, how were you able to do that?
I think we're pretty secluded myself. I don't know how they find us.
I think a lot of
the
it, they'll put an
theater-
ad in the paper, or when they go up to the theater, they will see that, you know, people are needed to help with things. And I know lists sometimes come out that I've seen in the paper that certain props are needed. You know, so we've been very fortunate to get different props.
When you hold auditions, do people come forward at that time and say, I really can't act, but I would like to help on this performance in some way? Or it's mostly the performers who come forward to try out?
No, there are a lot of people that come and paint sets and do carpentry work and just lug things here and there that don't act or want to.
We had some wonderful people in the beginning that absolutely would not act, but they said, I'll help choreograph if we do this. I was a dancer, or I'll help paint, or I'll help set design, or I'll make costumes because I love to sew. So they want to be part of the theater, but they didn't want to be in front of the lights.
I'm thinking of the size of the theater and the chairs that are in there and the like, and what happens to the props and the sets after the show? Can you sell them at salvage? Do you loan them out? Do you tear them down just the minute
I
you
think you
finish?
should come in
Yeah.
October when we have and see downstairs.
Well, you do have a basement where you reserve things, so to
Well,
speak.
in other words, we have leftover lumber and things. We can come and you can say, you start painting over license play and it becomes something else. It becomes
I
the
think you
next
told me
play.
the lumber company and several other vendors in town have also donated services or goods for the production or for the theater permanently. So it's all part of all our...
I don't know. Frankly, don't.
I don't know. I really don't know that end,
Okay.
but I'm sure they have.
Okay.
I'm sure they have.
What was your favorite? I know Born Yesterday is
No.
way up there, but putting that one aside, which one meant more to you that it could be produced here?
Oh my.
Not just that you enjoyed it, or maybe that too.
I really enjoyed Hello Dolly. I thought they did an outstanding job with that.
Do you have a favorite of yours that
Well, I have a
appealed to?
favorite that I was in, which was on Golden Pond, or
Oh.
Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I loved doing that one.
I have to give her credit. When she did on Golden Pond, she was as good, if not better, than Miss Hepburn. She did an outstanding job.
When you mentioned the other show, what was the, just now?
Who's Afraid of Virginia
Who's Afraid
Woolf?
of Virginia Woolf? Now that has been controversial for a number of years on different grounds. One of which is Albee, the author, was asked one time what he meant by this or that, and he says, "I don't discuss what is meant by." And there was one time that the play was going to be done either in drag or by women instead of men, and Albee said, "No, that's not to be done." So, what control does the author or the playwright have, or the playwright distribution company, Samuel French usually, over your production? What can you change? What are you allowed to do? How much liberty do you feel you have?
Well, as a director, I took many liberties, but I didn't tell them.
Okay.
But we have had plays where the author did say, "Do not change a word." And then the director tries very carefully to not let them change a word. But
And-
it's,
Ms. Sheila?
No, I just thought of something as you're talking, which is really do that. But I think one of the highlights when you said
Yeah,
coming
what-
was Tommy Tune came to Pacifica to see the performance. They did a special performance when we did Grease,
Oh.
and he
Tommy.
was very impressed with the production. So, wasn't that his name, Tommy Tune? That's name.
That's as,
Yeah.
that's as
That's
good a
his
name as
name.
any. Yeah.
I think it's whatever the dancer anyway that did Grease.
Rob Schneider appeared on this station for many times. Did he ever try out for any of your productions
Not that I know. Of.
that you know of?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I had him in art class,
You-
and
when
I
you-
know I encouraged him to paint the band students on the mural. I thought that was a nice tie-in since he supports the music program in the schools here.
Oh, that's
And he did come in and paint some of the band students on the mural on the Sanchez Art Center.
Is there any support for the theater by government agencies outside of whatever the city has done? Because I know that the federal rules are strict on, they really don't want to fund any arts and culture, or if they do, they want to make sure you don't do this kind of play and that kind of play. Any federal help or hindrance that you can recall during the years?
Not that I know of. Not
So
that I
you're,
know of.
you're sort of a free collection, so to speak. You're staying low key, so that,
Donations gratefully accepted.
even from the feds, if there were no restrictions on the artistic.
Right.
I hadn't
Okay.
even worried about it. You have brought up a problem.
I think more than that, I think we just would like the city of Pacifica to come out and support the play and the players. They work hard, they put on, it's a great evening's entertainment, and that theater should be filled every single night that the performance is run.
Sydney?
I think we need more directions on how to get there. People in the city don't even know that it's there. It is sort of secluded. It's a lovely position, location, but it's not visible.
Right.
And driving by, you wouldn't see it.
Is yours the one with the number on the even side of the road? You're an even number, but you're on the odd numbered side of the road, things like that.
Yeah.
But people can have a good time going up there.
Yeah. Oh, they do.
but it's
When they
personal.
find it.
Well, maybe we can work on signage. Get some of your volunteer painters to paint some signs, but then you have to go back to the city to say,
Where
may
we
we
can
please
put 'em."
put them somewhere without
Exactly.
offending somebody.
Exactly.
So you have that. What else do you recall that you want our audience to share about the highlights of the 50 years of the joint players, if we will? I shouldn't say joint players. You're one family, so. Sydney?
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well,
what you
the
want
The
them to
question
share
is
from-
this. We're coming down to almost the close of the show. I may have to just
Okay,
cut you
that's
off.
okay.
And so if there's something else
I'll
we
think
need to
fast.
express, you'll take it back. Or Sheila, do you have any closing remarks, if you will?
No, I just think we'll be doing a lot of celebration of the 50th with the booth at Fog Fest and participating in parade and
How about, is
open
there
house.
something the community can do? For example, would one of the service clubs or the schools say, Can you send us a couple of performers to either promote your show or promote your anniversary, or show us some of the things, not necessarily going to the theater, but coming to the school? Do you have any kind of outreach availability during this 50th year?
Well, I think that it can certainly happen. Today they were talking about sending people down to the community center as a preview, or to sing a couple of songs for Camelot. And they're talking about the castle, sending whatever that festival is up
People
there.
in
That's
costume
right.
of the times and so on.
And so that kind of thing, yes, we're willing. We don't ask them, maybe we should. But when we get asked, we try to respond.
Well, here's an opportunity where you can invite the community.
To
If
ask.
you've heard about this and you have a place where you think we can help something you're doing, including the old proverbial fundraising or a demonstration or involving the kids in set design or anything like that, you could do it. They obviously use computers today better than we. Computers used at all in your theater? You're still at the
Not
way
by
we did
me.
it years ago. Not by you and Sheila?
Well, I use a computer all the time, but I don't know about the theater.
The theater, no.
But I do want to give a theater hotline number where
Please.
if they do have anything, they want to leave a message, they want to donate their time, they want to donate a prop or donate services, it's 650-359-8002, and they can call and leave a message. Someone will get back to them. And
even that number for tickets too.
absolutely.
We're going to have to close up here. Sydney Clark, I want to thank you from the Pacifica Players
Yes.
at Spindrift. But you merged with the
right.
Pacifica Players and became, what's your
we
formal
merged.
title name? Spindrift
Pacifica Spindrift Players.
PSP.
PSP.
Instead of PP.
Oh, well, that's an improvement for sure. I'm glad you got that in there. This is Frank Winston now, thanking our guests for being here and reminding you that lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints in the sands of time.